Welcome, everyone, to the High Income Earners Fire podcast. I'm Aileen Prak, and I'm also here with Cody Ye. And we have decided to start this podcast to share a little bit, or this episode to share a little bit about ourselves with you all, why we started this podcast, the format that you can expect going forward, and give you guys a little bit of feeling of who we are, what we're about, and what you can expect of this podcast.
Yeah, Aileen pretty much have it all. And we're going to tell you guys a little bit of our background and why you should tune in and how we can bring value to your life and help you as high income earners to get closer to FIRE sooner.
And Cody, what does FIRE mean for those people who might not be familiar with that term?
Yeah, so FIRE is a well-known term recently. It's interpreted as financial independence, retire early. Again, it's a big word, financial independence, retire early. So everyone has their own version of it. So it's not like you have to make $1 million per year, then you can retire. Some people might only need 50K, depending on your situation. But our podcast set up in a way so that we can help you get closer to your own version of it. And most of the time, realize that people need to get to a certain financial level, financial security, and they need to get paid while they're sleeping, or they need to make money while they're not working, and in order to achieve that goal, so they can get more time back, spend on the things they really want, like families, leisure, traveling, or just more downtime.
Yeah. And so as you guys listen to our podcast episodes and deep dive into it a little bit more, you'll find that one of our favorite questions to ask our guests is, what does FIRE look like to you? What is your version of FIRE? So I guess we can also start off and share what our versions look like. Cody, you want to go first?
Sure. Put me on the spot. Yeah, let's do it. So that's the best way. So my version of FIRE, I really put down the definition way before I quit my job, right? So when I was working in a corporate job right after I graduated as an engineer at University of Toronto, right? A well-known, I would say one of the most well-known school in Canada, I will have to find a way to dial down on the amount of hours I put into commuting or amount of hours I put into the actual work. Because when I was working, coming right out of school for 6 years, I was working 400 hours to 800 hours of overtime, and plus on the commute timing. And then I was doing some trading of stocks and options in the Asian market at night. And in the meantime, learn everything about real estate, start purchasing properties, and learn how to manage a team and all that. So it was taking a big toll on me. So at that time, I set my goal of say yes to FIRE, which is my slogan, but not the slogan for this podcast, but it's really saying yes to my own version of financial freedom and retire early. Again, for people like myself, I'll probably never retire because I'm just so aspired to keep growing. And this is where I get my most pleasure from, is the sense of achievement. Growing every day is kind of different, but I continue to leverage my system. So what that really translates into is I want to find a way to continue to have higher impact, but I utilize my time where it's highest and best use, right? So for example, when we start this podcast, instead of just talking to a friend, now I can share my ideas with hundreds, thousands, if not millions of you guys out there. How do you guys help you guys reach that? So my own version of FIRE is not only myself reach that financial freedom, but I bring a lot more people along with me. And I want to do everything under my terms, under the time I design it to be. If I need to take a break, I can take a break. And ultimately, I can make more money for the financial freedom, more diversified ways to make more money and get more time back. So I'm not tied to just one job or just one income stream. So that's my version of FIRE.
That's great.
I know I probably talk too much, but
no, I mean, it gives a good background into, what your vision is and what your goals are and how you see FIRE for yourself. So I can share a little bit about my version of FIRE. It's very similar to Cody's. So for me, what FIRE means is that up until the point where you have enough passive income to outperform your active income, where your money is working harder for you than you are working harder for your money. So for me, I'm still working my corporate job, still working a W 2. However, I want to have that choice down the road that I no longer have to work the W 2 job if I choose not to, if that's the path that I decide not to later on. So ultimately, FIRE for me is all about choice. I want to always say I get to do something, not that I have to do it. And in order to get to that point, it's by, really having your money working harder for you. So as I sleep, my money is continuing to work for me. I don't have to work for it. I don't need to worry about from paycheck to paycheck where my money is coming from. My money is always going to bring in more money. I think of it kind of like little soldiers. We're sending them out to go battle, and then while we're sleeping, everything, I don't have to do the work, and it's just they're doing their own job. They're doing the best that they can for me, as little tiny soldiers. And for me also, family is so important. I want to have that time to be able to spend it with my kids, with my family. It's one of the biggest factors that we're on this journey. We want to have that choice is so that we can spend the time with them. I have two little kids, a 3-year-old and a 1.5-year-old. So they're in their prime of their life right now. Every day is a new milestone for them. And so I want to be able to be there, to be able to see all the little moments, all the little changes for them. And so by working towards this journey of getting to that FIRE, that financial independence, I never want to have to sacrifice, my time to be able to spend it to them. I want to be able to choose to be able to spend it to them, to be able to be there when they need me the most, and all those little times in between. And then, really, really, that's where my focus is. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing. That's why I'm doing what I love. And then, this podcast has, we're bringing a lot of guests onto this podcast to share their journey as well, so that we can, even if we're working actively, we can continue to invest passively so that we can ultimately end up to that one point where you have that choice. And then now your money is now working much harder for you than you are for it.
Love it. Ultimately, make more money so that we don't have to work again. Now we have the freedom of time, then we can decide what we really want to do, how we want to spend our time. I think that's the ultimate version. And a lot of high income earners out there, if you guys are listening to this podcast, you guys are just in for a really fun ride, because we don't just talk about real estate. We don't just talk about stocks. We don't just talk about option. We don't just talk about crypto. We really talk about anyways. We have, we're going to have guests come on, talk about flipping couches, flipping houses, flipping everything almost. So we're really just trying to open your broaden your horizon to let you guys know there's unlimited ways of achieving that, and you have to find your own ways and tie that together with your passion, right? And that's the meaning of your own FIRE, really.
Yeah, definitely. And what we want to also share too is, by going to FIRE, by trying to achieve this financial independence, we don't want to have to necessarily cut down or reduce our lifestyle or what we want to see in our lives. We want to be able to achieve or, continue to live the lifestyle that we want by creating this additional passive income for ourselves, this additional streams of income, so we can continue to live the life as we see fit, not that we are sacrificing to be able to live a certain lifestyle.
Mm-hmm. That's a very key point, because there are different ways of reaching FIREs. Some people is like, hey, you know what, Cody, I can cut back right now on my work, but if I can spend less, I can live comfortably.
Comfortably. Say that 5 times fast.
comfortably. But our version of FIRE, or where we're kind of helping our listener or audience, is we want to bring them to the FIRE state where we can keep the lifestyle we have, but we have the growth and abundance mindset to learn more, and we can make more money, get back more time, so we can want more, and we can actually live up to that, but we have the freedom to choose to live that way. Okay, so it's not pulling back on lifestyle. We can maintain our lifestyle or even grow it up there, but we have multiple stream of incomes now to achieve that.
Yeah. So, how about we share a little bit, Cody, about how this podcast came to be, how you and I met, and why we decided to start this podcast?
I think it's a cool journey. So I've been, before we head on, I've probably been on 40 podcasts over the past year. And I like deep down, I was looking to start a podcast at some point. And I told myself, hey, instead of thinking about at some point, it's right now. Now, how can I distinguish from all the other podcasts out there that has a one-man show, as a two-man show, and just kind of like shooting ideas at each other? I want someone who bring in a different perspective, but we can align on this passive income, this FIRE goal, right? And lo and behold, I was on your podcast, right, Aileen? And then right after the podcast, I was telling you, hey, I was looking for a female co-host, and then we hit up pretty well. We don't know where we're going at that time, but we kind of share our disc report. In case you guys don't know what disc report is, by Tony Robbins. Kind of I give it to all my employees before I hire them, and we have very similar disc reports. And we both like to chat, like to share similar goals. So we hit it out pretty well. And I really want to bring in a different perspective because Aileen already have a family as a mom, and I want to inspire more females out there and telling you guys that it is possible. It's okay to want more. And I want to Aileen here to set an example that it's possible to do it. And, not just two guys, talking about crazy things, right? I want that balance, that different perspective, that female touch on this show as well, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And when Cody had brought it up and we started talking about it, I was like, oh, this is interesting because our vision kind of aligns. We get along pretty well. And the opportunity to start another podcast to be able, oh, one thing you guys also don't know, Cody's from Canada, I'm from the US. And so it's touching on two different markets. And so I thought it was a really interesting way to kind of go about the podcast as well, to be able to, touch two different audiences, two different demographics, internationally as well. And so it was really interesting to me. So I was like, oh, let's try this out. Let's see how it goes. It doesn't hurt to try something. If it doesn't end up working out, it's okay, but at least we tried it and we wanted to see how it would go, do a couple episodes together, see how our synergies worked out. And I would say it's been fantastic so far. I really enjoyed working with Cody and putting this podcast together.
Yeah, we already probably have like 6 episodes in while we're filming this. So, so far so good. That's why we're filming this. And really, Aileen brought a really key point is that I'm from Canada. I came to Canada at the age of 18. So I brought the Asian culture to Canada. And then as far as we know, we're sister countries, right? Canada and US, but there's still a huge difference in terms of our personality, in terms of culture, in terms of economy, in terms of investing horizon too. So I've heard a lot of podcasts that's specifically for Canadians or podcasts specifically for US. But a lot of time, a lot of Canadians, all the high achievers, high income earners go down to US for conference and vice versa. So why not we just bring that on board and you can hear from the both of us, right? And we're chatting about we're going to have a monthly update for our listeners. We're going to talk about stocks. We're going to talk about real estate investing, things that we do, and then we're going to have our guests in the past who are very popular, who've been request for our audience to come back on and share more, to really just bring more audience, bring more synergy and bring more opportunities for all our audience.
Yeah, it gives a little bit of a different perspective. And I thought it was an interesting concept when he brought it up to mesh together the US and the Canada versions of things, because a lot of ways the two countries are similar, but there's a lot of ways that we are very different in terms of, especially from like the regulation types of things, verbiage that we use. I learned what a coach house was in Canada versus what we call it here as an ADU, and so things like that has just been kind of interesting to see what they're doing in Canada versus what they're doing here in the US.
I think there's a lot to learn from both sides. And as an entrepreneur, as high income earners trying to reach FIRE, you have to be open-minded. There's a lot of great things happening anywhere in the world, but if you know what you're looking for and you know how to apply it in your own business or life, your life would become more fruitful, really. And it's an interesting journey. At least that's for me.
Yeah, I would agree.
So I know before we start this podcast, we talk about, we were talking about topics and we come up with different topics, but we kind of land on high income earners FIRE. Why is this topic so important to us too, or maybe to our audience?
So I think for us, because it's related to, first of all, I think it's related to our own personal situations where we're able to, we've gone through the traditional route. We went to school, got good grades, worked the corporate jobs and everything like that. And now we've gotten to this point in life where, we've been successful in our careers, but now we wanted to pivot and to take that hard-earned money that we've accumulated, that we've saved up, and apply it to something else so that we can invest it, we can do something with our money so that it's not just sitting there in the bank and not working for us, because every day it's sitting there, it's basically losing money right now. So we were looking for ways to kind of apply it and to share those different resources, those different methods that other high income earners have utilized to be able to deploy their capital to other investment opportunities to be able to achieve this lifestyle for themselves. And so for us, it was really important to be able to share that with other high income earners as well, because a lot of times, you have your physicians, doctors, lawyers who are just working very hard, but they don't know where to, they don't have the ideas, or they might not be exposed to the different ways that we've talked about on our podcast that they could potentially put their money to that might be interesting to them. So it's just giving people another way to look at their finances, about how to invest, and giving them the option that their life could potentially look different if they utilize some of the different methods that our guests talk about. It doesn't have to be all of them. Every method is going to be very different for each person. It's going to vary from person to person, depending on your goals and your objectives and what you're looking for and your current situation in life.
Totally agree on that. There's no one way to Rome, but if you have a will, there's a way. And really for me, I'm going to share a little bit of my personal story. The reason why I come up with this topic, high income earners, FIRE, is because I hold it really dearly because, my dad is a physician, and growing up, everyone from the outside treat us with a lot of respect and kind of take it for granted that we're going to be well off. And because we're high income earners family, we're a doctor family, just my dad. But really what I seen growing up is that you can have a high income job, you work really hard, but if you don't put that money to work, or you don't know what does money really means, how to use money to make more money, then you're really just trading for your time for money. And until today, my dad's still working, maybe reduced hour, but it's still working. Whereas if I compare it to other physicians or other high income earners where they know what to do with their money and they start investing in whether that's stock, real estate, or any other things they're passionate about and they do homework on, they don't really have to work anymore. And I believe that's the right way to go. And growing up, I wouldn't say I'm suffering, but there's times where we're struggling for education fee because as an international student, it's very expensive. So I really want that personal story. I don't want anyone to go through that again, just like I do. I know there's a lot of immigrants to Canada and US. A lot of people has the best job overseas, but when it comes to Canada or US, because of situation, you have to drive Uber for a year or two or forever, right? So I really just don't want anyone to live through that life again. I'm kind of scratching the surface of that. I want to keep it light, but that's really what I can come from. And I want to help more of high income earners to live a better life, leave their kids a better life, and leave them a generational wealth.
Yeah. And I think you touched on a really good point there, because a lot of times, like high income earners, if you have one stream of income, right? Let's say something happens to you, like you are the breadwinner. If something happens to you, what's going to happen to your family, if you have just that one stream of income coming in and that stream of income goes away. And so by creating other streams of incomes, other ways to create money, now if one goes away, you always have something else coming in. You're not struggling, you're not having to scramble to be able to having to work, or to provide for your family a lifestyle that they're accustomed to, right? And so by creating these different streams of incomes, it's just another way to mitigate our risk and to protect ourselves, protect our families, in case something happens. And we all saw it during COVID, especially when businesses shut down. Physicians weren't able to go into the office, because they weren't able to, or other types of businesses weren't able to go into the office. A lot of smaller businesses had to shut down. So by creating these other streams of incomes, we can kind of hedge against stuff like that would come down, that is outside of our
income kind of thing.
Yes. Yeah.
Cool. I just love sharing this. Sometimes I talk too much, but so Aileen, I know we probably haven't really chat about what's our mission or vision. I know kind of like the long-term vision. Everything I do, I think about for long-term, or they have kind of planned for 1 year, 2 years just for this podcast. I want to hear about yours first. Let's see where ours align.
With this podcast?
Yes.
So
What's your mission or kind of vision in general for doing your own podcast, this podcast, and invest in real estate, right? What's your mission really?
So my mission most is to really get to that freedom of choice, to be able to create and to learn and to share what we're learning with other people out there. And so that's why I started my podcast, is why starting this podcast was important, because the more that we're spreading the word, the more that we're sharing with other people, it's what I've learned is that it's a team effort. And the more that we give back to the community, the more that we share with other people, we're just living a more fulfilling life. I never want to have to get stuck in a position or an identity where I'm not able to contribute to a bigger thing or something like that. It's, I'm looking at a bigger, trying to impact as many lives as I can. And I found that through the podcasting, it has started to make an impact. People listen to these stories, they listen to these other ideas. And if we can make an impact on just one person, if they come back and said, wow, I took away one fantastic thing that changed the trajectory of my life, I think that is really impactful for me, to be able to hear that and be like, wow, we really made an impact to somebody out there. Like, what we're doing is really important. It's helping other people.
I love it. Love it. For me is social media, YouTube, podcast is considered one of the most efficient way of giving back to the society. Yes, you can give money. Yes, you can build school. Yes, you can do a lot more things, but this is the cheapest way and most feasible way for us at this stage to reach as many people as we want, really. Anyone who's ready to step up can listen to this. And we are not shy away, or any of our guests are not shy at sharing any of their secrets. We want you to listen to our secrets, implement it yourself. But if you're too busy, but we need more guidelines, then yes, we can help you more with maybe our coaching program, or maybe we can help you with investing your money, as a limit partner or passive investor. But the idea is, if you want to do it on yourself, do it yourself, please. We want you to take away all the secrets. But if you think you trust us and you want us to help you with that, or in the first couple of deals, we're happy to do that too. That's really the whole goal and the mission for this podcast. And really, I'm not shy to say this, but I really want to hit $100,000 downloads per episode in the next 2 years. I know some people in my Cody and people never hit that, but I think with the reach we have, we set the goal really high. It's not about the number. Yeah, 100K. If we hit it, great. If we're not, that's great as well. Really, just we want to know we're impacting more people, and more people are tuning into this financial literacy, because to us, or to me, to us all, I think this is the most important thing in life. You have to set up your financial security first, because money it's not evil. Money is not good. It just amplifies, or who you are. And I think you need the bare minimum, if not more, to really start being a contribution to society.
Yeah. Yeah. Money isn't really, I mean, money is just a tool. It's a tool to allow us to get and to be able to do the things that we want to do. And so by investing, by doing the things that we're doing here, we're trying to make our tools strong enough so that we're able to do the things that we love to do, the things that we want to be able to do, share what we're able to do, contribute back to the community. Like that's what money is really there for. It's really just a tool for us to be able to utilize. And so by creating more of it, we're able to give back more. We're able to do more with it.
Mhm. I love it. And I think we touched on a lot of great points. I mean, um, is there any final words on the impact you want to make with this podcast?
Yeah, I would say, like I think what you touched on earlier, keep an open mind. There's a lot of stuff that our guests share, a lot of secrets that they've been able to utilize, tools and success stories and challenges and, failures that they've been able to learn from that they're sharing with us and our audience. And so we hope that you're able to listen in and get some type of value from our podcast and what our guests are willing to share, because it's for me, I find that I get the most inspiration by listening to the other people's stories and learning from what other people have experienced and really just taking it with a grain of salt, applying it to my lifestyle, and then pivot where I need to pivot.
Mhm. Totally agree. And then to me, this podcast or even recording these podcasts on regular basis is kind of like a dosage of my positive energy
Mm-hmm.
that all the guests come on has their own different failure, overcoming, and success story. So that inspired me and keep my positive energy kept going and let me know that there's no limit to really anything as long as you can see where you're going and make a plan to achieve it. So this is my positive dosage every week, if not, every month, right? So that's what keeps me going. This is kind of like mastermind, and we're just sharing our mastermind with all of you guys out there. And I think that's a big impact because people usually pay a lot of money for this kind of information, right?
Yep. Yep. And so, if you guys enjoy our episode here, stay tuned because we have a ton of great other episodes for you guys to listen to, and a ton of fantastic guests who are willing to share all their knowledge with us. And so, we've been just so grateful for the opportunity, to be able to be part of something like this, to have the guests come join us, and if we're here to be a resource, so feel free to reach out to either myself or Cody at any time.
Yeah, that's right. We give first and we'll see where it goes. And then stay tuned for all the upcoming episodes.